and welcome to Historic Pensacola. My name is Ricky.
I'm Megan.
And today we're going to be talking about how laundry was done in the early 19th century. Like many other daily chores that are taken for granted today, laundressing was one of those things that was rather time consuming. So your main ingredient in laundry would of course be clean water. So in 1805 Pensacola, the closest fresh water was located where Spring Street is today, hence the name Spring Street. Now this spring did empty out behind where the Blue Wahoo Stadium is today into what was called Washerwoman's Creek. I bet you can guess by the name that this is where most of the laundry was occurring in early Pensacola. So to do laundry, you would need your fresh water. If you were lucky enough, you might have a tub or a bucket like so. And you would fill this bucket with your fresh water and you would choose your form of soap. Now it probably was best based on what soap was available at the market, but there were two main different types of soap. You have your hard soap or soft soap. So after you put your clothes in your bucket with your water, you would add your soap and you would use a beetle or a bat like this to help agitate the water and get those clothes nice and soapy. Then you would use your washboard. Now I'm sure you see that this washboard doesn't exactly have the texture that we think of washboards today. Textured washboards came about in the mid 1800s, so a couple years after the time period that we're representing today. So you would put your soapy wet clothes on this washboard and then you would use a beetle or a bat to then hit the clothes. The harder you hit the clothes, the faster this water and soap was driven out of the fibers, and that was how these clothes became clean. That is how the dirt was removed from them. As you can imagine, this process of beating these clothes over and over again for many days sometimes would take its toll on the shoulders and the backs of these laundresses. So laundressing was one of the first occupations where women could make enough money to sustain themselves. So we do see laundressing as a popular employment for both single and married women. After you have cleaned your laundry with your beetle or your bat, you would then put it back in water to rinse it. And after you get done rinsing and cleaning them completely, then it is time to dry your clothes. For our whites, you would dry them on a grassy lawn. This is because the sun would help bleach them from the top, but also the process of photosynthesis would help to continue to bleach them from the bottom. So if they really wanted their clothes nice and white, they could leave them out for several days on this grassy lawn, bringing them in at night, however, though, because you do want to avoid mildew from the dew. Now, their colored clothes, however, you want the opposite of this to happen. You do not want to bleach your colors, so you would hang your colored clothes on a line in either side of your home or in the shade to avoid sun bleaching. Now, if you needed to get your whites an extra step whiter, there were a couple different things that you could add to your laundry process. The most popular whitening in the early America was your Persian blue. So this was an added chemical they would put in the rinse at the end of the bath. And if you know your color wheel, you know you have blue on one side and yellow on the other. So when whites do start to lose their white, they do tend to begin to look yellow. By adding a little bit of this blue additive to the post-wash rinse, it would help bring that fabric to a more white appearance in the middle of the color wheel. So it's really just playing a trick on your eyes. Some of the other things that you could add to your laundry process would be starch. This starch would help you iron your clothes. As you could imagine, there was no electricity in 1805, so their irons were these handheld irons that would be heated, or if you were lucky, there would be a spot to put coals inside. So if you were a professional laundress, you could either be a domestic laundress where you would do laundry from different families around town, or you could be a military laundress. Now, a military laundress is one of the first realms where women could make more money than their male counterpart. And this was because if a woman was doing enough soldiers' clothes, the military would give her a portion of each of those soldiers' stipends. Now, when you add it up, if she got a portion of each of their stipends, if she had enough men that she was doing laundry for, then she would be making more on a daily basis from the government than her soldier counterpart.
The process of making soap involves an ash hopper. Straw would be placed at the bottom of the ash hopper, then ash would be placed on top of that, and water was poured through it. The water that was collected at the bottom in the bucket was called lye. That was used in the soap making process. This lye would then be mixed with animal fat and boiled. This creates soft soap. In order to get hard soap, salt was added at the end of the boiling process. The colonists would have been making soap for themselves, but there were also tradespeople that could make these soaps for them. Candle makers often also made soap because they both required tallow to be made. The colonists used several different additives to help enhance the cleaning of their laundry. We have a few additives here that I'll talk a little bit about. We have chamber lye, which was used by collecting the urine out of the chamber pot in the morning, leaving it out in the sun, and essentially creating a very strong ammonia. This was then used to lighten your white fabrics. We also have pearl ash. This was a byproduct of making lye. It would then go through a further refinement process and was used to remove stains from your clothing. We also have vinegar, which was used to get rid of berry and grass stains from your fabric. A few other ones we have include alum, which removed stains, and we also have Fuller's Earth, which was like the equivalent of modern day dry cleaning. They would sprinkle it over grease stains, especially on wool, to help lift the stains out.